Hey everyone. Welcome to AfriHeart Stories, your go-to spot for African tales. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Now sit back and enjoy. Adaora shifted the strap of her battered tote and glanced down at Tobe's small hand in hers. Dawn's pale light filtered through the dusty window of their rented room, casting long shadows across the threadbare mat where Tobe had slept on the floor. At 6 years old, his bright eyes already held both her fierce pride and her deepest fears. "Are you awake, Mummy?" he murmured, rubbing sleep from one eye. "I'm up, sweetheart," she whispered, smoothing his hair with a gentle hand. She took a deep breath. Today's job interview at Echelon Holdings could change everything, or end in another bitter disappointment. With the last of her savings, she'd caught a clattering danfo to the city center. No money remained for a babysitter, so she'd invited Tobe along. Her heart fluttered with anxiety at the thought of a 6-year-old roaming a glass and steel fortress of executives. But she couldn't abandon her son. At 7:15 a.m. they emerged onto the shimmering avenue that led to Echelon's headquarters. The security guard frowned at Tobe's scuffed school shoes and old polo shirt, until Adaora flashed him her interview slip. He lifted the turnstile arm and nodded grudgingly. Inside, the lobby's polished marble reflected the enormous company logo on the far wall, a silver eagle soaring above the initials each. Tobe peered up at the soaring atrium with wide wonder. A receptionist in a crisp navy suit tapped at her keyboard, eyes flicking to Adaora as she approached. "Ma'am, your name?" "Adaora Okoye," she said, careful to keep her voice steady. "I'm here for the 8 a.m. assistant role." "And this is?" the receptionist asked, arching a brow at Tobe. "My son," Adaora admitted, clearing her throat. "I'm sorry, I had no one else." The receptionist exchanged a look with a nearby colleague, then whispered, "Fine. He can wait by the seating area." She pointed to a row of gray leather chairs under a wall-mounted fish tank. "No running." Tobe nodded solemnly and sat. Adaora ruffled his curls, then turned toward the interview room. Her stomach knotted. Moments later, she crossed the threshold into a sleek, walnut-paneled office. 3 people, 2 managers and 1 stern-faced HR officer, sat behind a long glass table. Behind them, floor-to-ceiling windows framed a panorama of Lagos traffic. She swallowed. "Good morning," she said, offering the folder of her resume. The panel returned polite smiles. As they began with routine questions, past experience, skill set, her confidence grew. Yet every so often she glanced that way, where Tobe quietly clutched a pencil and notebook. Halfway through explaining how she'd managed inventory at her last job, she caught a glimpse of movement in the corridor. Tobe had slipped out of his seat, small feet padding softly toward the interview door. Her pulse thundered. Before she could call out, the panelists looked up. One of them noticed the open door. Another manager appeared, picked up a child-drawn picture of a smiling woman and boy taped to the table, and let out a low whistle. Adaora's breath caught. What had her son done? Adaora settled onto the cold, gray leather chair beyond the reception desk, her son Tobe perched beside her, knees drawn to his chest. The aquarium's neon glow danced across his dark skin as he tilted his head to watch the multicolored fish. Adaora forced herself to breathe steadily, reviewing her answers for the interview that had just ended moments ago. She had spoken about resilience, attention to detail, and her experience managing schedules for a busy clinic. She wondered what the panel thought. Around them, other candidates sat in hushed silence, faces taut with anxiety, glancing at their phones or leafing through portfolios. The ticking clock above the receptionist's head sounded louder than usual. Adaora closed her eyes, listening to Tobe's steady breathing beside her. He shifted, and she felt the rumble of his words as he mumbled, "Mama will be brilliant." Minutes ticked by. Tobe's restless fingers traced letters in a small notebook she had thrust into his lap. He sketched stick figures, a smiling woman and a boy holding hands. Adaora spotted the notebook cover, "Mummy's best friend." She smiled and whispered, "That's nice, sweetheart." When she saw the receptionist's sleeve twitch, she looked up. The same manager who overseen part of her interview strode from the tinted glass doors, holding a paper between 2 fingers. Adaora's heart stuttered. The manager approached the front desk and lifted Tobe's drawing for all to see. Adaora's cheeks heated. "I'm so sorry," she murmured. Emeka held up a hand. "No apologies," he said quietly, studying the drawing. "Children do insightful things." Tobe hopped off the chair and trotted over, offering the picture. "For you, sir." Emeka smiled, a crease appearing at the corners of his eyes. "Thank you, Tobe. This is wonderful." He glanced at Adaora. "Would you mind telling me more about it?" She rose and joined them, her voice steady despite her racing heart. He wanted to help. He knows how much this means to me. She glanced at her son's hopeful face. He believes in me. Emeka studied her, and for the first time a flicker of warmth replaced his professional mask. You and your son have courage, he said. That courage is precisely what we need at Echelon. He paused. I'd like to discuss your application further. Please come to my office in half an hour. Heart-pounding, Adaora nodded, her senses heightened. The echo of footsteps in the hallway, the faint hum of air conditioners, and the warm glow in Emeka's eyes that spoke of genuine interest. Tobe's grin stretched broader as he whispered, I helped. Adaora smiled through tears she didn't realize she was holding back. She ruffled his hair. Yes, you did. Together they rose, stepping into the corridor with renewed confidence. Other applicants looked on, curiosity and envy flickering across their faces as the manager led them away. Outside the boardroom door, Adaora exhaled slowly, feeling hope bloom in her chest like sunlight after rain. The elevator doors slid shut behind Adaora and Tobe, leaving the boardroom behind. She leaned against the polished metal, exhaling. Her shoulders slumped with exhaustion. She had delivered her answers honestly, but the silence she had encountered after the interview left her doubting every word. I'm sorry, Mummy, he whispered. Did I ruin it? She crouched, brushing his curls. No, sweetheart. You were brave. She offered him a nervous smile and straightened her blouse. When the elevator halted on the ground floor, she and Tobe stepped into the lobby. The receptionist's eyes widened. She picked up her phone and pressed a button. Before Adaora could speak, she heard, Ms. Okoye? The CEO would like to see you again. Right away. The words tumbled out in a rush, and Adaora's heart leapt into her throat. Tobe looked up in surprise. Again? Adaora squeezed his hand. Yes, honey. Let's go. They followed the receptionist through frosted glass doors into a corridor lined with portraits of past CEOs. Each frame seemed to watch them silently as they passed. At the end of the hallway, a sign read, Emeka Durojiyi, Chief Executive Officer. Adaora's pulse raced. The receptionist knocked and ushered them inside. The office was larger than the boardroom, lined with shelves of leather-bound books and awards gleaming under brass lamps. Emeka stood behind a mahogany desk, his posture relaxed. In his hand was Tobe's drawing. Adaora, he greeted, voice calm. Come in. She entered, Tobe at her side, and closed the door gently behind them. She felt vulnerable under the warm glow of a desk lamp. Emeka placed the drawing on the desk, fingers trailing over the colorful sun. Why this? He asked softly, looking up at her. Why do you think your son felt compelled to leave this here? Adaora swallowed. Her mind raced. Because, she began, he knows how much this means to me. He sees me try day after day to build a better future. He wanted to remind us, of what really matters. She glanced at Tobe, whose wide eyes fixed on his mother. Emeka leaned back. He steepled his fingers and studied her intently. A pause stretched between them, broken only by the faint hum of the air conditioner. You spoke about resilience, he said finally. This drawing shows more resilience than any resume. He nodded once. I'll be in touch. Adaora blinked, searching his expression. Thank you, she whispered. She exhaled loudly, relief mixing with anticipation. She turned toward the door, only to pause. Tobe tugged at her skirt. Mummy, can we go home now? Yes, darling, she said, scooping him into her arms. At the reception desk, she thanked the staff and stepped out into the morning sun. Her chest felt light as though lifted by invisible wings. She held Tobe close. Whatever happened next, her life had already shifted in ways she never imagined. She whispered a silent prayer of gratitude as they walked into the sunlight. 2 days passed in a blur as Adaora returned to her shifts at the clinic to pay rent. Between same-day appointments and filing patient records, she barely had time to think about the interview. Each evening she reviewed Tobe's drawing, tracing its bright lines with memory of his hopeful smile. On the morning of the third day, her phone buzzed while she was folding laundry in their tiny living room. Adaora pressed the screen. It was an unknown number with the Lagos area code. She swallowed and tapped answer. Good morning, Ms. Okoye, a warm male voice said. This is Emeka Durojiyi. I wanted to speak about your application at Echelon Holdings. Her heart pounded. Good morning, sir. Thank you for calling. I've been reviewing your credentials, he continued. I'd like to offer you a position as my personal aide, starting next week. Aide? She repeated. I applied for the assistant role. I know, Emeka acknowledged. After considering the company's needs and your qualifications and, well, your son's illustration, I realized your perspective could benefit me directly. The role includes a childcare stipend to support Tobe and a competitive salary. He paused. Would you be interested? She blinked, stunned. Yes, she managed. Thank you, sir. Yes, I am. He smiled. Excellent. Please send me any questions via email, and I'll have HR draft the contract. He wished her a good day and the line closed. Adaora sank to the couch, Tobe clinging to her. Mummy, is it for me? He asked. It's for both of us, baby, she said, wrapping arms around him. She exhaled, uncertainty and relief swirling in her chest. Later, under the flickering street lamp outside her neighbor's house, she knocked on Mama Ifeoma's door. The door swung open to reveal the middle-aged woman, apron dusted with flour and a gentle smile in her eyes. Ada. Come in, child, Mama Ifeoma beckoned. Inside, the living room smelled of groundnuts and stew. Adaora sat, Tobe climbing onto a well-worn cushion. She recounted the call. Mama Ifeoma listened, nodding. A personal aid? Mama Ifeoma mused. That's more responsibility than you asked for. But the stipend, that can cover school fees. Adaora glanced at Tobe's tired face. I know it's a big step, Mama. I wasn't expecting it. The world is full of surprises, Mama Ifeoma said softly. Take the chance. You've earned it. She pressed Adaora's hand. For your son and yourself. Adaora smiled, determination blooming. She sent Emeka a concise email confirming acceptance and thanking him for the opportunity. That night, Adaora lay awake long after Tobe drifted to sleep, every thought racing. She pictured herself stepping into Echelon's lobby in a crisp blouse, Tobe's delighted grin at her side. Her pulse thrummed in her ears as she considered the path ahead, a path bright with possibility she had hardly dared imagine tomorrow. That night, she lay awake, imagining tomorrow's first commute in a crisp blouse instead of clinic scrubs. Tomorrow her life would shift again. The next morning, Adaora woke with a mix of excitement and nerves. She dressed carefully in a modest blouse and skirt, smoothing creases in borrowed clothes. Tobe waved as she left, clutching a peanut butter sandwich and calling, Mummy, good luck. She kissed his forehead, promising to be home by dusk. By 8 a.m. she stood at Echelon's glass entrance, heart pounding. The security guard recognized her and offered a polite nod. Inside the lobby, the receptionist smiled warmly. Good morning, Ms. Okoye. Mr. Durojiyi is expecting you. A swift elevator ride brought her to the 10th floor, where she stepped into a busy open-plan office. Rows of sleek desks glimmered under bright lights. Well-dressed staff tapped at keyboards and spoke quietly on headsets. Adaora's breath caught. She had never worked in such an environment. A tall woman in heels glanced up, eyebrows lifting at Adaora's simple attire. She exchanged a quick look with a colleague, lips curved in a polite but dismissive smirk. Adaora squared her shoulders and found Emeka's office, introduced herself, and settled into the chair he pointed to without a word. Emeka's expression remained neutral. He did not smile or mention Tobe's drawing. He handed her a stack of folders. Review these project briefs and prepare summaries for my 10 a.m. meeting. Find me in the boardroom when you're done. His tone was crisp, offering no warmth. Adaora nodded, heart pounding, and left to find the dark-wood boardroom. Inside, she opened the folders and encountered acronyms and charts she barely understood. She fumbled as she navigated the company's report templates on a loaned laptop. Her fingers hovered over keys, unsure where to begin. Time slipped away as she struggled to format tables in Excel, her cheeks burning with frustration. Down the hall, whispers trailed in her wake. Is she even qualified? How did she get this job? Even the mailroom staff glanced her way. Gloria, the janitor who had comforted her earlier, motioned briefly and mouthed, "Keep going." Adaora drew strength from the silent encouragement, returning to the screen. At 9:45 a.m., she rushed to the boardroom, papers in hand. Emeka looked up at the door. "You're early," he observed. She swallowed and placed summaries on his desk. His eyes skimmed them, brow furrowing. He tapped a finger. "Not bad," he said. "We'll discuss improvements after my meeting." She exhaled. Though his praise was minimal, it felt like a victory. As she left, she passed the skeptical colleagues again. Their side eyes still lingered, but Adaora held her head high, determined to prove that resilience and a mother's love were credentials no resume could capture. At lunchtime, she joined the communal kitchen. She poured tea and grabbed a sandwich from the shared refrigerator, her pulse steady as she listened to quiet chatter among supportive faces. She dared to smile, imagining how tomorrow she would walk these halls with confidence, not a trace of doubt left behind, so grateful. Adaora sat at her desk early the next morning, the soft hum of fluorescent lights flickering overhead. She opened her laptop and reviewed the investor presentation Emeka had asked her to finalize. Her fingers moved swiftly as she updated the slide deck, replacing placeholder figures with the correct revenue projections she'd compiled the previous day. She double-checked each chart, each bullet point, confident she'd produce something flawless. By mid-morning, Emeka had called a last-minute meeting with a key foreign investor. The boardroom buzzed as executives filtered in, pausing to nod at Adaora as she carried in her USB drive. She handed it to the IT manager, who plugged it into the projector. A hush fell. Adaora swallowed. This was the moment of truth. The title slide appeared and she exhaled. But as Emeka clicked to the next slide, the numbers looked off. The investor raised an eyebrow. "These figures don't match the forecast we discussed yesterday," he said. Adaora's heart sank. She fumbled for her notes, only to realize she'd attached the wrong file entirely, the clinic's monthly report, not the company's financial summary. A bead of sweat trickled down her temple. Emeka's jaw tightened. The investor cleared his throat, shifting uncomfortably. Someone murmured, "Wasn't this presentation supposed to cover Q2 results?" Emeka's gaze bored into Adaora. "Explain," he commanded, voice cold. She stood, knees unsteady. I apologize. I must have mislabeled my files. Please allow me a moment to retrieve the correct version." Her voice wavered but remained polite. She backed out of the room, heart pounding, USB drive clutched in her palm. In the hallway she leaned against the wall, tears stinging her eyes. Fear and shame warred within her. What if she'd blown her one chance at redemption? She pressed her palm to her mouth, trying to steady her breath. Before panic could overwhelm her, Gloria, the janitor, emerged with 2 mugs of tea. "Take this," Gloria whispered, handing her a steaming cup. "You're not alone." Adaora nodded, gulping the hot liquid. She squared her shoulders and marched back into the boardroom, where Emeka stood by the projector, arms crossed. She slipped the correct drive into the slot, rebooted the slides and began again. Her voice was steady as she walked through each slide. Revenue growth, market expansion, cost-benefit analysis. The investor leaned forward, nodding appreciatively. Emeka's expression softened. When the presentation concluded, the investor extended his hand. "Impressive recovery," he said. Emeka exhaled and turned to Adaora. "Well done." Later, alone in the restroom, Adaora pressed her forehead against the cool tile. Tears streamed freely as relief and exhaustion flooded her. She whispered to her reflection, "I won't let this define me." She splashed water on her face, squared her shoulders and walked out, resilient and ready to face whatever came next. That evening, the streets of Lagos buzzed with rush-hour traffic as Adaora and Tobe waited for the bus outside Echelon's headquarters. The sky was streaked with sunset hues. Tobe tugged at her sleeve. "Mummy, I miss Gloria's cooking," he said softly, eyes downcast. Adaora smiled, brushing a loose curl from his forehead. "Soon, baby. Soon we'll go home." She scanned the road but saw no sign of the serpentine line of buses she'd hoped for. Just then, a sleek black SUV pulled to the curb. The window rolled down, revealing Emeka in crisp business attire. He offered a small, polite smile. "Need a ride?" Tobe's eyes lit up. "Yes, please." Adaora hesitated, then lifted Tobe into the back seat and climbed in herself. The leather was cool against her skirt. Emeka drove off, weaving through traffic with practiced ease. Inside, the car was silent except for the hum of the engine. After a few blocks, Tobe peered at Emeka. "Sir, why are you always so busy?" Emeka glanced in the rearview mirror. "I manage many things," he said. "Echelon is a large company." Tobe frowned. "But what about having fun?" Emeka's lips curved ever so slightly. "Fun?" "Yes," Tobe continued, turning to Adaora. "I want to be a boss like you and Mr. Emeka, but nice to people too." Adaora's chest swelled. Emeka glanced again, this time with warmth. "That's a good goal," he said softly. "Perhaps you'll teach me a thing or two." Tobe beamed. "Deal?" Emeka dropped them off at a roadside vendor where cilantro stew steamed in metal pots. He handed Adaora extra cash. "On me," he said. "Take a good meal home." Adaora nodded, gratitude shining in her eyes. As she guided Tobe away, she glanced back at Emeka's retreating car. He watched them, expression thoughtful. That night, nestled under a patchwork blanket, Tobe drifted to sleep, clutching his drawing of the 3 of them. Adaora studied his peaceful face, heart brimming with love and pride. She whispered into the dark, "Thank you, my son, and thank you, Emeka." With hope renewed, she drifted off, ready for tomorrow's challenges. The following morning, whispers rippled through Echelon's open-plan office as Adaora approached her desk. Her inbox pinged with messages congratulating her, or so the subject lines claimed. Yet beneath the celebratory tone lurked sharp undertones, secret glances, half-smiles exchanged over monitors. Ife, a senior analyst with a razor-sharp gaze, slid a folder onto Adaora's keyboard. "Thought you'd want to see this," she said, tone sweet as honey. Adaora opened the document to find a series of internal memos with figures selectively altered to implicate her in budget discrepancies. Her stomach churned. She scanned the spreadsheets, cost overruns, misallocated funds, all bearing her name in the header. She tightened her grip on the folder, knuckles whitening. That afternoon, Emeka summoned her to his office. The corridor felt endless as she approached the heavy door, uncertainty prickling her spine. Inside, Emeka sat behind his desk, brows knitted. "Adaora," he began, voice clipped. "I've received reports suggesting irregularities in last month's expenses." He tapped the folder for emphasis. "Care to explain?" Adaora inhaled, mental alarm bells ringing. She recognized the formatting. Someone had forged the memos. She squared her shoulders. "Sir, I assure you I did not prepare these. Someone is trying to undermine me." Emeka studied her, eyes cold. "This is serious." She pleaded her case, describing the morning's whispers and Ife's involvement. Emeka's expression flickered. He frowned as though weighing evidence. Just as he opened his mouth, the door clicked. Tobe slipped in, holding Mama Ifeoma's hand. "Mummy said you might need help," he declared, his small voice ringing in the tense room. He held up a fresh copy of the genuine expense report, stamped and signed by finance. "This is the real one." Emeka exhaled slowly. His gaze softened as he compared the documents. He stood and placed a hand on Adaora's shoulder. "Thank you, Tobe." He turned to her. "I'm sorry." Adaora nodded, relief and exhaustion warring in her chest. Emeka dismissed them with a gesture. As they left, Adaora glanced back to see Ife's face pale with shame, her colleague's eyes averted. Outside, Tobe beamed. "I helped again." Adaora hugged him fiercely. "You did, baby. You did." That evening, Emeka invited Adaora and Tobe to a formal company dinner at a riverside banquet hall. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed the Lagos skyline, twinkling lights reflected in the water. Waiters in crisp uniforms circulated with champagne flutes. Adaora wore a borrowed emerald dress, its silky fabric shimmering under chandeliers. Tobe clutched her hand, eyes wide at the opulence. Emeka arrived, presenting himself to the room with a practiced smile. He guided them to a round table adorned with white orchids. Introductions followed. Emeka's executives offered polite nods. Some cast curious glances at Adaora's simple elegance. Then Emeka stood. "Welcome everyone," he began. "Tonight we celebrate our successes, and the new members of our Echelon family." He paused, turning to Adaora. "Meet Tola, my daughter." A petite girl stepped forward, dark-skinned like Adaora, wearing a sapphire dress. Her eyes flickered between Adaora and Tobe. "Hello," she whispered. Adaora offered a warm smile. "Hello, Tola. I'm Adaora, and this is Tobe." Tola's stiff posture eased as she peered at Tobe. "You draw?" she asked. Tobe produced his notebook. The two children huddled, giggling over sketches of buildings and hearts. Meanwhile, Emeka and Adaora sipped wine. He gestured to the skyline. "I've missed this," he admitted quietly. "Missed moments like these." Adaora's heart fluttered. "Thank you for inviting us." He met her gaze. "You've reminded me what truly matters: family, trust, kindness." A hush fell as the head chef presented a sculpted dish of grilled prawns. The room murmured with appreciation. Conversation flowed, about Tola's school recital, Tobe's love of drawing, and Adaora's journey. At dessert, Emeka leaned closer. "Tell me, Adaora, what do you dream for your son?" Her eyes glistened. "A life where he never doubts his worth." He nodded, understanding. "Then let's build that life, together." Their hands brushed across the table, and for a moment, time stilled. After dinner, Emeka offered to drive Adaora and Tobe home. The city lights blurred past as they rode in silence. Emeka's gaze flicked between Adaora and Tobe in the back seat. "Adaora," he began softly, "thank you for tonight." She looked up, heart quickening. "Thank you, sir." "And, Emeka, for everything." The use of his first name surprised her both thrillingly and unnervingly. He slowed the car at a traffic light. "I've seen you face challenges with grace," he continued. His voice was low, earnest. "I admire your strength." Adaora's breath caught. She searched his eyes, seeing something more than professionalism there. Her pulse hammered as the light turned green. He drove on and they reached her stop. The street lamps cast a warm glow over her small building. Tobe unbuckled and waved. "Good night, Mr. Emeka." Emeka smiled. "Good night, Tobe." When Tobe ran inside, Emeka remained seated. Adaora turned toward him. "Thank you for the ride." He opened the door for her. She stepped onto the pavement, the night air cool against her skin. Emeka lingered by the car. "Adaora," he said, hesitating. She met his gaze, heart fluttering. He closed the gap, reaching out until their faces were inches apart. His voice dropped. "I can't ignore this connection." Adaora's breath trembled. "Emeka." He swallowed, eyes dark with feeling. Then he stepped back. "I'm sorry. I crossed a line." He gave her a shy, apologetic smile. Her pulse thundered. "It's okay." He nodded, opened the door and drove off into the night, leaving Adaora standing alone under the streetlight, heart racing, awareness that everything had just changed. Adaora arrived at Echelon Holdings the next morning to an eerie hush in the open-plan office. Whispers fluttered around her desk like nervous moths. As she set down her bag, she noticed a pale envelope taped to her keyboard. It bore no return address. With trembling fingers, she peeled it open. Inside lay a printed sheet of gossip. Allegations that she traded favors for her rapid promotion, that Tobe's drawing was a calculated ploy to seduce the CEO, that she was unfit for her role. Her breath hitched. Her colleagues, many of whom she had only briefly smiled at, eyed her from behind monitors. Some smirked, others averted their gaze. The accusations burned like embers in her chest. She crumpled the page and stuffed it into her tote, refusing to let tears spill in public. But each step toward Emeka's office felt heavier than the last. Emeka's door was open and she entered without knocking. He looked up from his desk, expression unreadable. "Adaora," he said, voice low. "We need to talk." She handed him the crisp gossip sheet. "Someone spreading lies, sir?" His brow furrowed as he scanned the text. He exhaled. "I've been hearing rumors," he admitted. "I wanted to hear it from you first." She swallowed hard. "I've done nothing wrong. Someone's trying to undermine me." Her voice wavered. "I refuse to let them use my son as a weapon." Emeka stood and walked to the window, gazing down at the city's pulse. The silence stretched, taut as a drawn bow. Finally he turned. "I believe you." He handed back the paper. "I'll deal with this." Later that day, Adaora watched from her desk as Emeka called an impromptu all-hands meeting. He spoke with measured authority. "There have been malicious rumors. These accusations are unfounded. Any attempt to smear a colleague will not be tolerated." His words echoed through the hall, punctuated by nods of agreement. "Adaora has proven her integrity time and again. Let's treat her with the respect she deserves." A ripple of applause followed. Adaora's cheeks warmed as supportive colleagues offered nods of solidarity. Ife, her jealous co-worker, flushed and turned away. Adaora pressed a hand to her heart, relief and vindication mingling in her chest. As the meeting dispersed, Emeka approached her desk. He placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You're safe here," he said softly. "Thank you for standing your ground." Adaora smiled through tears. "Thank you for believing in me." She looked around the office where trust had been restored. In that moment she knew that resilience and a mother's fierce love could silence even the cruelest rumors. That evening, Adaora sat at her kitchen table, the aroma of jollof rice simmering on the stove. Tobe did his homework at the counter, oblivious to the turmoil swirling in her mind. She stared at the contract still lying on her desk at Echelon, terms she had yet to sign. She'd thought acceptance meant stability, but the gossip had cut her confidence to shreds. When her phone buzzed with Emeka's name, her heart leapt. She answered tentatively. "Adaora?" His voice was gentle. "Can we talk tomorrow? I want to apologize in person." She exhaled. His call was a lifeline, but could she return? That night, sleep evaded her. Questions tumbled through her mind. Was this corporate world worth the wounds it inflicted? Could she protect Tobe's innocence if she stayed? As dawn approached, exhaustion eclipsed her resolve. At 8 a.m., she arrived at the lobby and asked the receptionist for an HR meeting instead of her usual check-in. The HR officer led her to a stark conference room. She slid into the chair, heart pounding. Across the table, the HR manager fixed a sympathetic gaze on her. "I'm resigning," Adaora said, voice trembling but firm. "I can't raise my son in an environment where we're used as gossip fodder." She handed over her letter of resignation, each word carefully chosen. "Thank you for the opportunity. I'm grateful, but I need to prioritize my son's well-being." The HR manager nodded, eyes soft. "I'm sorry you experienced this. We'll process your notice immediately. You deserve respect." Adaora exhaled. Relief and sorrow wrestled within her. As she left the room, Tobe was waiting by the elevator. He clutched a small notebook. "Mummy, you're leaving?" he asked, voice small. She crouched to his level, brushing his hair. "I'm leaving this job, baby, but never your side." She hugged him fiercely. His tears stained her blouse. At home, as she packed her work bag, Tobe watched silently. "Was it because of the drawing?" he asked, eyes wide. She paused, heart aching. "No, baby. Because some people forgot what truly matters." She folded her clothes, determination shining in her eyes. "We'll build our own path, together." That night, Adaora lay beside Tobe, staring at the ceiling. The future was uncertain, but her love for her son felt more powerful than any corporate title, or rumor, could ever be. Back at Echelon, Emeka found the mahogany desk unnaturally still without Adaora's bright folder. He sank into his leather chair and unfolded her resignation letter. Each line cut deeper than he expected. Her gratitude, her heartbreak, her resolve to protect Tobe. He traced his finger along her final words. "I hope you remember why you started." A hollow ache settled in his chest. The office felt colder. He called Gloria, the janitor, into his office. She entered, wiping her hands on a rag. Her face was gentle but firm. "She's sincere, isn't she?" he asked, voice hoarse. Gloria nodded. "She wouldn't burn bridges, sir. She cares too much." Emeka leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "I let gossip drive her away." Regret gnawed at him. "How do I fix this?" Gloria folded her hands. "Actions, not words. Go to her." He exhaled, resolve forming. But before he could act, a string of messages arrived. Investors requesting follow-ups, departments asking for her handover notes. He realized how deeply she'd become the backbone of his operations. That afternoon he drafted an email to HR. Pause Adaora Okoye's resignation. "I'd like to discuss new terms with her directly." He waited, fingers hovering over the send button. Finally he pressed it and closed his eyes. Later he gathered Tobe's drawing from his desk drawer, the original, kept as a reminder. He studied the bright sun and the two figures holding hands. He pressed the paper to his heart and whispered, "I won't let her go." The following morning, Emeka arrived unannounced at Adaora's modest home. He knocked, heart pounding. Adaora opened the door, surprise and caution in her eyes. Tobe peeked from behind her skirt. "Good morning," Emeka said softly, holding out a bouquet of fresh flowers and Tobe's favorite chin-chin snack. "May I come in?" Adaora hesitated, then stepped aside. He entered the humble living room, where a single lamp illuminated family photos. He placed the gifts on the table and faced her. "Adaora, I'm sorry. I believed office gossip before trusting you." Her eyes glistened. "You know why I left?" He nodded. "I do. And I realize how wrong I was. I should have protected you, both of you." He paused. "Would you consider returning? Not as my aide, but as a partner in the initiatives we started." Tobe slipped forward, thrusting out his chin-chin. "Please come back," he pleaded in his small voice. Adaora studied Emeka's earnest face, then knelt beside Tobe. She brushed his cheek. He beamed. She turned to Emeka. "I won't return unless it's on my own terms," she said. Emeka exhaled. "Name them." Adaora laid her conditions calmly. A formal project coordinator role with clear responsibilities, an official childcare stipend, a performance-based contract, and zero tolerance for gossip. Emeka listened, nodding. He fetched a fresh contract and adjusted the title and clauses as she spoke. They discussed salary, boundaries, and recognition of her experience. Tobe watched from the doorway, pride shining in his eyes as his mother negotiated confidently. Adaora asked for quarterly reviews and a seat at leadership meetings. Emeka agreed, signing the revised document with a flourish. She scanned the final contract. Dignity, respect, and a clear path for growth, exactly what she needed. She extended her hand. "I accept." He stood and embraced her, sincere gratitude in his voice. "Welcome back." Tobe ran forward and hugged them both. "You're the real boss now," he declared, and Adaora laughed, tears of joy shining on her cheeks. In that moment, clarity replaced uncertainty. Boundaries were set, respect earned, and trust rebuilt, proof that honest terms and heartfelt truths could forge the strongest partnerships. Emeka sat in his office early Monday morning, reviewing personnel files and memos with a clear purpose. After the storm of rumors and the board's urgent demand for accountability, he knew decisive action was necessary. As CEO of Echelon Holdings, he felt responsible not only for the company's bottom line but for the morale of every staff member. He tapped his pen thoughtfully and stared at Ife's dossier, recalling her technical brilliance and her recent betrayal. Her numbers had always been impeccable, but her underhanded tactics and forging memos to smear Adaora left him no choice. He signed the demotion order reassigning Ife to a junior support role in compliance, then drafted a promotion memo elevating Adaora to project coordinator for the new Women's Empowerment Initiative. By mid-morning, news of the reshuffle rippled through the gleaming atrium. Staff clustered around the digital bulletin board displaying Adaora's name in bold. Whispers of surprise and relief mixed in equal measure. Emeka summoned everyone to the boardroom. Under the glittering chandelier, he addressed the room. Effective immediately, Adaora Okoye will oversee our Women's Empowerment Initiative as project coordinator. Please join me in congratulating her. What began as polite applause swelled into genuine cheers as colleagues recognized Adaora's integrity. Adaora rose, breath-catching. She accepted her new badge with a steady voice. "Thank you all. I'm honored to work alongside you to build meaningful programs that uplift women in our community." Heads nodded in approval. Skeptical stares had vanished. She returned to her desk, her pulse still racing as supportive colleagues offered congratulatory smiles. By early afternoon, she convened her first team meeting in the glass-walled conference room. Representatives from marketing, finance, human resources, and external relations took their seats. Adaora placed Tobe's drawing of three figures under a bright sun at the table's center. "This reminds me why we're here," she said, motioning to the sketch. "We're creating opportunity and hope." She outlined a preliminary schedule of budgeting clinics, mentorship sessions, and public forums. Team members pitched partnerships with local NGOs. Adaora listened intently, acknowledging each idea and assigning follow-up tasks. As the meeting wrapped, Emeka appeared at the door, arms folded but his expression warm. He approached her desk. "You handled that beautifully," he said quietly. "Your ability to unite diverse perspectives. Impressive." Adaora smiled, though fatigue tugged at her shoulders. "It's a team effort," she replied. "Everyone brings something unique." He nodded, pride softening his usually reserved mien. After work, at dusk, Adaora and Tobe emerged from the building. He clutched his notebook filled with community center sketches and group portraits. Looking up, eyes shining, he whispered, "You're really a boss now, Mummy?" She knelt, heart full. "Yes, baby, a boss who learns every day." She ruffled his curls. Together they walked into the soft evening light, unaware that watching from the glass office window, Emeka felt certain. Under Adaora's leadership, both the initiative and the entire company would flourish. Bright morning sunlight streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Lagos International Conference Center as Adaora adjusted the microphone. This was her first major public address. The hall buzzed with anticipation. Entrepreneurs, NGO directors, media representatives, and government officials, all gathered for the Empower Her Summit. Emeka sat proudly in the front row, his presence a symbol of the company's full support. She glanced at her notes one final time. Introduction, personal story, key data points, call to action. Tobe's drawing remained tucked into her binder, a silent reminder of why she was here. She inhaled deeply and stepped onto the stage. "Good morning," she began, her voice clear and strong. "My name is Adaora Okoye. 5 months ago, I walked into a corporate office as a candidate with a dream, and a son who believed in me. Today, I stand before you to launch the Women's Empowerment Initiative at Echelon Holdings." Light applause rippled through the crowd. She shared her journey, the interview, the drawing, the gossip, the resignation, and her eventual return under her own terms. Each anecdote drew nods and murmured approval. When she spoke of her mother's sacrifices and Tobe's unwavering optimism, eyes glistened with understanding. "Our initiative," she continued, "is more than training workshops. It's about creating sustainable ecosystems of support, financial literacy, mentorship networks, and community-driven investment." She unveiled data. 1 in 3 Nigerian women lacked access to credit. Female-owned microbusinesses produced 20% less revenue than male counterparts. Then she presented the solution: a series of mobile clinics offering business planning, paired with an online portal for mentorship and funding applications. The crowd leaned in as she detailed partnerships with Lagos State's Ministry of Women's Affairs and local microfinance banks. Questions followed. How will you measure impact? What safeguards protect participants from predatory lenders? Adaora answered each with confidence: pre- and post-program surveys, quarterly progress reports, and transparent partnerships governed by a joint oversight committee. Emeka watched, pride softening his usually stern features. As the session concluded, attendees surged forward to congratulate her. Journalists requested interviews, NGOs offered collaboration, and a representative from the central bank asked for a sit-down meeting. Emeka joined her, offering his arm. "You were incredible," he said softly. Adaora exhaled in relief and triumph. "Thank you," she replied. "This is only the beginning." Tobe, who had attended with Mama Ifeoma, waved from the lobby. Seeing him, she felt every challenge had been worth it. Together, they walked out into the bright Lagos day, ready to turn vision into reality. Back at Echelon headquarters, Adaora found a sleek gift box on her desk. She unwrapped it to reveal a leather-bound journal embossed with her name and an engraved pen. Attached was a note from Emeka: "For your thoughts and plans. Thank you for inspiring us all." Tobe peeked over her shoulder, eyes wide. "Cool," he exclaimed. Later that afternoon, news broke that Tobe had won first place in a regional children's art competition. His prize, a small cash award and a scholarship for next year. The official announcement quoted his drawing's message: "My mummy needs hope." When Adaora heard, tears welled in her eyes. At home that evening, Emeka arrived unannounced with a second surprise: a scholarship trust fund he had established in Tobe's name, covering his school fees and art supplies through secondary education. Tobe's jaw dropped. "For me?" he gasped. Emeka nodded, ruffling the boy's hair. "Your talent, and your belief in your mother, deserve support." Adaora placed a hand on Emeka's arm, gratitude shining in her eyes. "This is more than generous," she said softly. "It changes our lives." The next day, as she walked past the security desk, she overheard two interns whispering, "She's not just an employee, she's family." She smiled, stepping into her office with renewed purpose. She and Emeka reviewed the initiative's next phase: funding microgrants for women-owned startups, pairing them with mentors, and holding quarterly showcase events. Adaora sketched a timeline on her new journal, mapping out milestones. That evening, at the apartment's small balcony, Adaora held Tobe on her lap as he drew another picture, this time of a family under a rainbow. "What's this for?" she asked. He shrugged, then smiled. "For our future." She kissed his forehead. Emeka stood behind her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "You've given so much to others," he said. "Now let us give back to you." One slow Saturday afternoon, Adaora and Emeka found themselves at the Lagos Botanical Gardens with Tobe in tow. The air was warm, birdsong punctuating the quiet paths. Emeka watched as Adaora chased Tobe around a fountain, her laughter ringing like music. She paused, breathless, and their eyes met. In that moment, time seemed to slow. They walked together under a canopy of jacaranda blooms. Emeka spoke first. "Adaora, I need you to know how much you've changed me." She glanced at him, heart fluttering. "You challenged me to be kinder, more human." She stopped and faced him fully. "And you showed me that respect and love can go hand in hand." He reached for her hand, she didn't pull away. They strolled in silence, letting the afternoon sun warm their shoulders. At a wooden bench, they sat side by side, Tobe happily scribbling in his sketchbook. Emeka turned to Adaora. "I've never felt this connection." She studied his eyes, no walls, only sincerity. "I feel it too." His hand covered hers, fingers curling around hers gently. They remained there until dusk, talking about simple hopes: family dinners, weekend picnics, Tobe's art shows. No dramatic confession, just the quiet certainty of something real blossoming between them. As the sky deepened to purple, Emeka pulled Adaora into a gentle embrace. "We'll build a life together," he whispered. "With honesty, strength, and love." Tobe looked up, grinning. "We're the best team." A year later, Adaora strode confidently through the familiar glass doors of Echelon Holdings, no longer a hopeful candidate, but a respected leader. Her tailored suit fit perfectly, her badge gleaming. Tobe stood nearby, almost 7 now, taller, proud. He waved as Emeka watched from the boardroom window. Inside the atrium, a life-size banner displayed the success of the Women's Empowerment Initiative. Over 500 women trained, 50 startups launched, and significant community impact documented. Journalists snapped photos. Colleagues greeted her with warm handshakes. She paused by the digital bulletin. A new program announcement credited Director Adaora Okoye. Emeka met her at the elevator. He slipped an arm around her waist. "Look at what you've built." She leaned into him, eyes shining. "We built it, together." That afternoon in the boardroom she presented the next 5-year plan. International expansion, partnerships with African development banks, and an endowment to support women-led research. The room erupted in applause. As cameras flashed, Tobe sat quietly in the front row, sketching her silhouette with a giant sun overhead. Later, as the sun set over Lagos, Adaora and Emeka walked hand in hand along the rooftop terrace. Tobe skipped ahead. They watched the city lights spark to life. Emeka squeezed her hand. "From your first interview to this moment, you've changed everything." Adaora smiled, the memory of that nervous walk with her son 5 years ago still vivid. "And in every step I've had your support, and his," she said, nodding at Tobe. He grinned and held up his newest drawing. 3 figures, mother, son, and partner, bathed in golden light. Adaora pressed her cheek to his. "This is just the beginning," she whispered. And as the skyline glowed, she knew it was true, not only for her family but for every life touched by her journey from interview to impact. Liked it? Thumbs up, subscribe, and join the AfriHeart fam. Your support fuels our stories. Until next time.